You are listening Day of the Droids podcast.
Extreme music since 2007.
This is the fucking Day of the Droids. Yes, you hear it, DOTD. Fucking droids.
Welcome, everyone, to the first ever deep dive.
I am so ready for this.
Me too.
Yeah.
You know, I've been looking forward to this for so long.
Me too. It's going to be good.
It is. Okay, so on Day of the Droids, we're all about taking these sources that you, our amazing listeners, sent in.
Yeah.
And just diving deep into them.
Absolutely.
Today, we are diving into the world of breakcore.
Extreme music.
Extreme electronic music. And we're going to be going through three different, I guess you could call them like subgenres or flavors of breakcore.
Flavors. I like that.
Yeah. You know? So we have extratone, old school breakcore, and new school breakcore.
And we're going to illustrate each of these with a different track.
Exactly.
That the listeners sent in.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's jump into this.
Let's get extreme.
All right. So first up is extratone.
Extratone.
Now, when you hear extratone, what is like the first thing that pops into your mind?
Well, I mean, just from the name alone, extratone, right?
Yeah.
It makes me think of just excess.
Okay, excess, yeah.
And that manifests in the music, first and foremost, through the tempo.
Okay, so we're talking like beats per minute, BPM.
Exactly. The average dance track that you might hear in club is going to be somewhere between, 120, 130 beats per minute.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, extratone, we're talking, at a minimum 250.
Oh, wow.
But it can go way higher than that.
Wow.
Like into the thousands.
Thousands of beats per minute.
Thousands, yeah.
So what does that actually sound like?
Well, it can sound like a lot of different things depending on the artist, but one thing they all have in common is this sense of sonic density.
Okay.
Like you're being bombarded by sound.
Oh, wow.
Almost like a wall of noise.
Okay, interesting.
But what's interesting about extratone is that even though it can be really intense and abrasive, it's also strangely musical.
Yeah.
There's still a sense of melody and rhythm there, even if it's buried under all these layers of sound.
So it's not just like random noise, you're saying. There's like a structure there.
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely a structure. It's just maybe not the traditional kind of structure that you would expect for like a pop song or something.
Gotcha.
It's more like an abstract kind of structure.
Okay, so we have a really great example of extratone. You sent us in a track by MIDI.
A Japanese extratone artist.
Yes. I'm super excited to hear this, actually.
Yeah, MIDI is a great example of what we've been talking about.
Okay.
That sonic density, but also that musicality.
Cool. Well, let's give it a listen.
Let's dive in.
All right, here's MIDI.
Music. You are listening Day of the Droids podcast.
Extreme music since 2007.
This is the fucking Day of the Droids. Yes, you hear it, DOTD. Fucking droids.
My brain, I don't think my brain can process that much information. That was intense. It was like pure energy.
It is pure energy. I mean, and it is a lot to process.
Yeah.
But, it's interesting, right? Because, you have to almost let go of trying to understand it intellectually,
Yeah, you can't be like, what's the time signature?
Right. You just have to kind of let it wash over you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was thinking about, like, what does this music make you feel? When I was listening to it, I was like, oh, my heart is beating faster.
Sure.
It's like an adrenaline rush,
Oh, absolutely.
Do you feel that way with this kind of music?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's definitely a visceral experience.
Yeah.
It's not just something you listen to with your ears.
Right.
You feel it in your whole body.
Yeah, it's physical.
It's physical.
Okay. Well, that was Extratone. I'm ready for more.
All right.
Okay. Let's move on.
Music. You are listening Day of the Droids podcast.
So next up is old school breakcore.
Old school breakcore.
Now, from what I've heard, old school breakcore, it's a little less about, that sheer speed, those really high BPMs like we heard with Extratone.
Yeah, it's not always about the speed. It can be,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, and it's more about this raw, chaotic energy.
Right, exactly. And it has a lot to do with the history of the genre. Oh, okay.
So breakcore emerged in the early 90s.
Okay.
Kind of as this reaction against the more commercial forms of electronic music that were popular at the time.
Okay, interesting.
So like techno was getting really big, house music.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the artists who were making breakcore, they felt like the music was getting too slick, too polished,
Okay.
too commercial.
Right, so they wanted to do something different.
They wanted to do something different. They wanted to do something raw, something messy,
Okay.
something that had that kind of punk rock energy.
I like it. So it's like this underground kind of movement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very DIY, very anti-establishment.
Yeah.
And so they started experimenting with these really fast break beats,
Okay.
chopping them up, distorting them.
Okay.
And they were also sampling from all kinds of different sources, like movies, TV shows, video games, just anything they could get their hands on. So this is sampling. For people who don't know, basically you're taking pieces of other music or sounds and you're integrating them into your song.
Exactly. Yeah, and they were really pushing the limits of what you could do with sampling, creating these really dense, chaotic collages of sound.
Very cool. I love that. So is there like a specific artist who's kind of like a pioneer of this old school breakcore sound?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of great old school breakcore artists, but I think one of the most influential is DJ Scud.
Okay.
He's a British artist who's been making breakcore since the very beginning.
Okay.
And his music is it's full of this raw energy and aggression, but it's also really playful and experimental.
I like it. Playful aggression. I like that. That's a good vibe. Well, we have a track by DJ Scud that a listener sent in, which we're going to listen to in just a second. But before we do, I just want to recap for people. So old school breakcore, early 90s, kind of reaction against the commercialization of electronic music, really raw, chaotic, DIY aesthetic.
Amen to that.
Yeah, and sampling from all over the place. Okay, I think we're ready for this track. Here is DJ Scud.
Music. You are listening Day of the Droids podcast.
like that.
Yeah, it's got that energy.
Yeah, I can definitely hear those chopped up break beats, that kind of like really distorted sound, those samples.
Yeah, it's very textural.
It's very textural. Yeah, it's like a sonic collage.
Exactly. It's like a sonic collage.
Very cool. You know, it's amazing to think that this music was being made decades ago, but it still sounds so fresh and so intense today.
Well, that's the thing about breakcore, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's always been about pushing boundaries.
Okay.
And it's always been about kind of this DIY underground spirit.
Right.
And so even though the music has evolved over the years, you can still hear those same elements in the music today.
Right.
You know, that rawness, that intensity.
Yeah.
That willingness to experiment.
I like it. Okay, so that was old school breakcore.
Old school.
Now it's time to blast forward into the future.
To the future.
Into the future, into the now.
Oh.
And we're going to talk about new school breakcore.
New school breakcore.
Cool. So what is new school breakcore?
Well, in a lot of ways, it's a continuation of what we were just talking about.
Okay.
With old school breakcore, but it's also, it's been influenced by a lot of other genres of electronic music that have emerged in the last 20 years or so.
Okay.
Like, IDM.
Okay.
Intelligent dance music.
Yeah.
Ambient music, noise music.
Interesting.
And so, new school breakcore artists are still using those same basic elements, like the break beats.
Yeah.
And the sampling.
But they're kind of like blending it, mixing it up with all these other sounds.
Mixing it up. Yeah, they're blending it. They're pushing the boundaries of sound design even further, like using all sorts of new production techniques.
Okay, cool. So it's like still breakcore at its heart.
At its heart.
But with like a wider range of sounds.
Yeah, a wider range of sounds, a wider range of influences.
Okay.
And so, you might hear a new school breakcore track that has these really beautiful melodic passages.
Okay.
And then it'll suddenly switch to this like really intense, chaotic breakdown.
Interesting. Like dynamics.
More dynamics, more depth, more texture.
I get it.
And one artist who I think really exemplifies this is Gorshit.
Gorshit.
And they make these really incredible, immersive soundscapes that are both beautiful and unsettling.
Oh, interesting. Beautiful and unsettling. I like that.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
It's a good combination.
Yeah.
It's like yin and yang,
Exactly.
The light and the dark.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have a track by Gorshit that we're going to listen to. I'm so excited for this one.
Me too. This is a good one.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, here we go.
This is the fucking day of the droids. Yes, you hear it, DOTD. Fucking droid.
Wow.
Yeah.
I could hear those layers.
Layers, yeah.
Yeah. It's like you were saying, like there's a lot more going on.
It's very textural.
Yeah.
It's very, very textural.
And like, to me, it feels like a journey,
It is a journey.
you know? Like, it's almost cinematic in a way.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
There's like highs and lows, and there's darkness and light. I don't know. It's very cool.
It's very dynamic.
It's dynamic, yeah.
It ebbs and flows.
It ebbs and flows, exactly.
Keeps you guessing.
It keeps you guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. That's good. So that was New School Breakcore.
New school.
Wow. We went through a lot of stuff today.
I did.
That was like a whirlwind tour of breakcore. We went from extratone to old school to new school. I feel like I learned so much.
Me too.
Yeah, this is great.
And the tracks were awesome.
Oh yeah, big shout out to all of our listeners who sent those tracks in. Thank you so much.
Big ups.
Big ups. Yeah, anything else you want to add about breakcore?
I mean, I think the main thing to remember is that breakcore, it's more than just noise.
Right.
You know, it's a form of expression. It's a way of pushing boundaries.
Yeah, for sure. It's about exploring the extremes of what music can be.
Exactly.
So cool. Well, for everybody listening, thank you so much for joining us on our very first deep dive.
Yeah, this was fun.
This was fun.
Let's do it again sometime.
Let's do it again. We'll definitely be back for more deep dives into extreme music. Keep your ears open and your minds ready for anything. All right. See you next time.
Peace.
You are listening Day of the Droids podcast.
Extreme music since 2007.